front of some books. This is my cookbook collection, and it's from one of these that I devised the dish that I'm making today, which I call Big Duck. Now, it's not actually big because I'm just using the breasts. The reason I call it this is that it's named after a French dish called duck with bigarade sauce. Bigarade actually refers to some oranges which are slightly bitter, like the Seville oranges you might get today. But the original recipe had the disadvantage that in order to make the sauce, you need to spend at least 10 hours beforehand boiling up vegetables, bones and pieces of beef to make a very nice stock. And then you need to make the bigarade sauce. You need caramelized sugar and vinegar to make it a nice sweety sour taste. By that time, you're probably exhausted. I want to cut out all that. So what I'm showing you how to do today is how to cook the 2 duck breasts, do a lot of the preparation in advance so that it's all ready just to go in the oven for a final 10 minutes cooking before you serve it up. Now, it's important that when you take it out that the meat has to rest. Resting is a bit like cooks. After you've done something, you actually need a rest. The meat too needs to be rested for at least 5 minutes because that makes it just much more succulent. Now, and without further ado, here it comes, and I do hope you enjoy it. If you like it, please pass it on to your friends. If you want to ask me anything at all, because the recipe is not put up in detail, but it's just shown in all the different steps, you can always contact me at my website, thearmchairkitchen.com. Here it is. I'm starting by showing you what I'm going to be using. And I'm starting with oranges. There's a blood orange, which is bright, dark red. And then there's ordinary oranges. Now, part of this is to get the juice, and part of it is to cut up the orange to use as the decoration. And here I am starting. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the peel off, but taking it off really well so that there's no white membranes left on the orange. And you go all the way around the orange, and then when you've done this, you're going to be able to cut it into segments without any skinny bits at all. For the 2 breasts of duck, you're going to need a couple of oranges. And I'm starting with this one, and you can see me getting all these segments off, and this is just for the decoration afterwards. You're also going to need some of the juice to go in the sauce. I want to tell you at this stage that you can prepare all this in advance earlier on. I've got 2 onions which I've peeled, and I'm going to cut them downwards into slices. These onions are going to be fried. Everything tastes better with fried onions, but it goes particularly well with duck. Put a little oil in the pan, and when it's hot, start to put in the slices of onion. Sprinkle with a little salt and black pepper and leave on high heat till they begin to brown on the underside. Keep cooking, but watch them all the time so they don't burn, but they should be brown on each side. It looks fast, but it's going to take a few minutes to do this, at least 5. I'm frying the last tiny bits of onion, which I'll use for another purpose, while I'm going to get the duck breasts ready. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm putting them flesh side down, and I'm showing you how to cut them, which is called scoring. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut lines across through the skin, but not into the flesh. And I'm just going to cut some down and then the others straight across. Lay the breasts skin side down into a cold frying pan. It's important that you do this because they're going to heat up gradually and let the fat release. It'll take a little while, and then gradually as it gets hotter, the fat will start to seep out of the skin. When they start to cook, you'll see that a lot of fat is already coming out of them. So you need to pour that away. Now keep going. The temperature now is a little bit hotter. It's probably on about 8, which is quite high, but you've got to keep watching it. While you're doing it, you can be squeezing one of the oranges to go into the sauce, which is what's going to happen next. Now, as I said to you before, even this can be done in advance, a few hours before you're actually going to serve it if you have to. Now you can see I'm turning them over and the top looks deliciously brown and crisp. Put the duck with the onions in a preheated oven, 170 centigrade, 350 Fahrenheit, and cook for about 10 minutes. The sauce is made from some of the duck fat, a little flour, and some chicken stock. Sprinkle a little flour over the duck fat and just try to incorporate it by stirring it in. There will be a few lumps, especially when you start adding the chicken stock that you're doing now. So spoon it around and keep stirring. Don't worry too much about the lumps, but just make it as smooth as you can. About the chicken stock, I had some chicken soup, and what I did was I took about 2 cups of it and then I boiled it up quite vigorously until it was reduced by about a half. So what I've added here is just about less than 1 cup of chicken stock. Now I'm adding something else. This is some chicken gravy that I'd had left over, and this is much stronger. And this is sometimes what might be called a demi-glace. And you can buy something called demi-glace in the supermarket. But if you have any gravy, this is the thing to put into it. Now begin to add some of the orange juice. You don't need as much as a whole orange, but start with a small amount and you can always add more. Keep whisking till it's nice and smooth. Have a little taste, see if it's okay, and then add a tiny bit more orange juice if you think it needs it, or all of it, and just keep stirring for a little while. What you're going to do next is you're going to strain it, because whatever you do, there will still be some lumps, so you get a bowl with a strainer and you just pass the sauce through the strainer. That should make sure that you have a really nice smooth sauce at the end. Just enough for 2 people. After it's been cooked, the duck breasts have been resting under a bit of foil for about 5 minutes or so. I had just checked with a thermometer to see that it's the right temperature inside, and now I'm just going to show you something I've done with some potatoes. I had some cooked potatoes and I fried them in a little bit of the duck fat, so I'm going to serve those on the side. You need to rest the duck breasts when they come out of the oven. If you want them slightly pink, like I've done them, the temperature you need inside is about 58 degrees centigrade, and you can test this with a thermometer. Now, after they've rested, you're ready to slice them up and plate everything up together. I'm using the onions and the potatoes down one side, and then I'm going to put the 2 lines of the duck breast into the center. Make sure that both the serving plate and the sauce are hot. Add the pan juices from cooking the duck into the hot sauce, stir it well, and then spoon a little of it over the slices. You don't need all of it, just a small amount, and then you can serve the rest on the side. Here is my duck with orange sauce. You can see the segments of orange, the ordinary ones at the bottom and the blood oranges at the top, with the onions as well on the left and the potatoes. I've done the orange sauce, but you can also add something else. Just in case you don't want to bother with the orange sauce at all, you can use ordinary applesauce. It's really good with duck.